This is the Harley Benton R-446, which I previously reviewed here on the channel. And this is the upgraded version. A new bridge, new tuners, and new pickups make for an entirely improved experience over the stock version of the guitar. But how much does it actually improve the experience? Does investing extra money in this guitar make up for its weaknesses, or is it all just smoke and mirrors? And most importantly, how well does the guitar compare to more expensive competition where you might be better served spending your hard-earned money? Let's take a look and find out. When I initially decided to start using this YouTube channel for guitar reviews, there were a couple of guitars that I specifically wanted to cover. The Harley Benton ST20 Active is the most obvious of these, not only because of the incredible buzz it generated within the guitar community, but because of its incredible performance for so little money. A guitar I didn't expect to be in such demand, though, is the Harley Benton R-446, which has generated a lot of interest here on the channel, and along with that, views and subscribers, and a lot more than I could have possibly anticipated. So thank all of you for the immense amount of support on those videos. I honestly cannot thank you enough. To date, those are the only two guitars I've reviewed here on the channel, and while I enjoy what they each uniquely have to offer, I found there were more issues that I had with the R-446 than the ST20 Active. While it's a great looking guitar with its variety of sparkle finishes, and it's a very impressive player, especially with the higher end features that it offers, I had some hardware issues with the tuners and to a lesser extent the bridge, and most importantly, the pickups were kind of underwhelming, even though the tonal variety offered by the 5-way switch is very impressive. So I decided to take the leap and invest a little bit of extra money into the R-446, ultimately aiming to improve the issues with the hardware that I had from my original review. If you want to know what those are, or if you just want to know more about the R-446 and what it has to offer, I recommend checking out my original review of the guitar here, which should answer all of the questions that you've got. But today, we're going to find out if investing more money into a cheap instrument is going to help improve its performance and take it up to that next level, or if you would be better served saving your money and investing in a more expensive instrument in the first place. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the hardware components that I replaced, as well as how much the replacements cost, so that way you have a frame of reference in case you decide to do some upgrades yourself. We're going to do sound comparisons between the original version of the guitar and this upgraded version. And most interestingly, at least to me, we're going to do a comparison between the upgraded version of the R-446 and a more expensive guitar in Harley Benton's lineup, the flagship Amarok model. While this might seem like an apples and oranges comparison, it's mainly intended to see if investing money into a cheaper guitar can get it close enough within striking distance of a much more expensive model, see if you can save yourself some sizable money while still getting the same general sound and performance. As you might have noticed at the very start of the video, there are three specific parts that I wanted to replace on this guitar: the tuners, the bridge, and the pickups. In my original review, I only took issue with the tuners and the pickups, but I happened to have a spare hardtail bridge lying around and decided to see if replacing that would be worthwhile enough to invest some extra money in. Let's start with the tuners, since these are the first thing that I addressed in my original review. I took the original die-cast tuners that are okay but rather unimpressive, and decided to replace them with a set of locking tuners made by the company Geiger. These are pretty standard locking tuners with a thumb screw on the back that helps lock the string into place and keep it that much more stable. While they're not as smooth as the likes of Schallers or Grovers, they feel pretty good for what they're worth, and they're certainly improvements over the original tuners on the guitar. Unfortunately, one of the tuners I had was rather stiff, so I had to lubricate that a little bit with some graphite in order to get it to turn cleanly. However, for a set of tuners that came in at $35 off of Amazon, I don't really have too many complaints, and considering how much better they feel than the original tuners that were on the guitar, I think they were a pretty worthwhile investment. At the same time, I decided to do some work on the nut of the guitar, the recommendation of a commenter on my original review, who fortunately reminded me that the nut tends to be a common sticking point for guitars with tuning issues. I lubricated in between each of the string slots using a pencil for some graphite, and I sanded in between them just a tiny little bit with some 800 grit sandpaper to get rid of any possible burrs that might be inside the nut from the manufacturing process. Next is the hardtail bridge. Originally, I didn't even consider replacing this because I don't necessarily have an issue with it in the first place. However, since I'm doing some hardware upgrades to the ST20 Active, I happen to have the original hipshot style hardtail bridge from that and decided to give it a try on the R-446. I certainly do think it looks better, all things considered, and any extra little bit of improvement is nice. While this didn't cost me anything since I took it off another guitar, you can find bridges like this on Amazon for roughly $30, so we'll use that as the price point here. Lastly, let's take a look at the pickups. I actually had a difficult time deciding how I was going to upgrade these pickups. Would I keep the original internal wiring with the 5-way switch and just replace the pickups to keep those splitting options, or would I replace the internal wiring and maybe go with a 3-way switch and a push-pull pot, or just a 3-way switch entirely? Ultimately, to keep up with the idea of this being a budget guitar and a budget upgrade, I decided to go with an off-brand set of pickups and replace the original humbuckers with a set of GFS Red Active pickups. This is their active line, which per pickup is a little bit more expensive than their normal offerings, but it's meant to compete in the same space as other active pickups such as EMG, and I think, as you'll see tonally, they do a pretty impressive job. So here we have an HB101 in the neck and an HB102 in the bridge, both of which are Alnico 5 pickups with a built-in preamp. At the same time, I decided to replace the internal wiring in this guitar with a wiring harness that I ordered off of eBay. This harness has the wiring soldered directly to the pots as opposed to using a quick connect assembly, but you can still use the quick connect wiring to connect the pickups directly to the electronics, which honestly is really impressive and it feels very stable. Now I will admit, I did cheat here a little bit. Normally, if you order the pickups from the GFS website, it will cost you $30 a piece, which does bump the price up a fair bit. However, I managed to pick up the pair of these pickups as well as some additional wiring off of Reverb for about $35 some time ago. I'm going to include the original price of the pickups here in the total cost, but if you can find them cheaper, of course it's always recommended. On top of that, the wiring harness that I ordered from eBay was about $45 shipped to my door. While you can get the quick connect assemblies generally cheaper, ultimately it's going to come down to preference. Now that all the replacement parts are in place, let's take a look and see how it sounds compared to the stock version. As you're listening to the AB demo, if you made it this far in the video, let me know what you think about the comparison in the comment section down below, and ultimately if you hear any significant sound difference. I would absolutely love to know what you think. hearing the sound clips back, I have to admit I do hear a sound difference in the guitar, though not as much as I was honestly hoping for. The neck pickup is a vast improvement over the original passive ceramic version. It's a lot more fluid, there's a much nicer pick attack to it, and it really feels like a neck pickup now. That might come down to my preference for Alnico neck pickups, but it's a pickup I had a lot of fun playing with, and I actually had to get myself to stop just doing lead lines on the neck pickup so that I could actually record the other parts for this video. The bridge pickup, while it certainly feels punchier and more aggressive, is a little bit lacking in that top end cut, no doubt to the original pickup having a ceramic magnet. It certainly sounds better for detuned riffing, and I think it fits better with the overall metal feel of the guitar, but I would love to try this out with an active ceramic pickup to see if it can bring out just that extra little level of aggression that you look for in modern metal tones. The middle position with these two pickups is honestly pretty cool. There's a nice bubbly attack to it that makes it really cool for clean and ambient tones, and offers a roundness and a sort of pop for distorted lead lines. While I do wish the GFS would make a red active pickup that was coil splittable in the same way as the EMG 89, I think with the options that are here, there's a lot more variety than you would expect from just 3 positions. So if we account for the cost of everything at market value, we have $210 for the R-446 with the international shipping cost, $35 for the set of locking tuners, $30 for the hardtail bridge, $30 a piece for each of the red active pickups, and $45 for the wiring harness, which, if my head math is correct, brings us to a total of $380 for this entire experiment. So the guitar certainly does sound better, at least to my ears, and it most definitely plays better. While the original bridge wasn't necessarily bad to begin with, the upgraded version is ultimately more comfortable under the palm, and it just looks better, at least for my tastes. After the quick work to the nut and upgrading the tuners to locking ones, I have had 0 tuning stability issues even with aggressive lead work. However, a total $380 investment is pretty steep, especially when you consider how stiff the competition is from Harley Benton's own lineup at that price. You could look into a guitar from the Custom or the Pro line around the same price point that offers roasted maple necks, stainless steel tuners, locking tuner stock, and even EMG pickups, which are fully name brand, and I contend would, at the very least, compete with these red actives. That closeness in price to more expensive models is one of the reasons I wanted to compare this guitar to the Amarok, which you can occasionally find in B-stock version on the Thomann website for about the same price as I invested entirely into the R-446. On paper, the Amarok should absolutely destroy the R-446 with its neck-through construction, ebony fretboard, Grover locking tuners, and aggressive set of EMG active pickups. However, as you might hear in these sound demos, it's not always what it seems on paper. Honestly, I was impressed by the R-446 in that shootout. While it doesn't sound as aggressive as the EMG-equipped Amarok, and there's certainly some detail missing by comparison, I would think in a mix that it would certainly hold its own, and you would actually have a difficult time being able to tell the difference between the two guitars. You know what? Let's do exactly that. I've put together a little mix track here featuring both the upgraded R-446 and the Amarok, and let's see if you can hear any real noticeable difference between the two guitars in a mix. So, what did you think? I'm going to keep my opinions to myself on the mixed version and ultimately leave it up to you to decide. But I do feel that the R-446, after all the upgrades, has improved pretty substantially. It plays notably better, and there is a sound improvement, however slight it may be in your personal opinion. While I do think the cost of the investment is maybe a little bit more than I would normally want to spend on a guitar like this, I do think there is merit to upgrading some of the parts in this guitar, and exactly what you upgrade and how you upgrade them will come down to your individual needs and how many of the original features that you decide to keep. But I want to know what you think. Do you have an R-446 that you're considering upgrading? Have you upgraded a budget guitar in the past and gotten an impressive instrument for not a whole lot of money? Let me know in the comments section down below, because I would love to hear about your experiences. More importantly, if you enjoy the experience you got out of this video, I hope you'll consider hitting the subscribe button down below. There's been an insane amount of support here on the channel as of late, and I honestly cannot thank you all enough. I've got some really exciting demos and reviews that are going to be coming up here on the channel soon, so I hope you'll keep an eye out for those. But if that's not going to hold you in the meantime, I hope you'll consider checking out this video right over here, because I think I'll have you covered in the meantime.